What is good, and welcome back, Defenders Nation, black and gold faithful. It's the end of 2024, so hopefully you know my voice. It's the Scarf, J.R. Liebert, ready to roll for the final episode of 2024. And he's got one of my favorite kits that we've ever had. We call it the Joker kit. I love it so much. He is no joke, though, my friends. This is the voice of the Empire Strikers. He is Christian Philly Philemon.
Hello, once again, Los Angeles. Hello, fans of Major League Soccer. Hello, lovers of the black and gold. And for the final time in 2024, hello to the millions
and millions
of Defenders of the Bank listeners 37 days ago since our last recording. And to be honest with you, it feels a lot longer. I haven't even begun to process how this past season ended. I think I went blank, limp, and vapid in my LAFC mind since the final. And yes, Scarf, limp. And Lord knows I don't want to talk about the final. And if there is a hell, then for me, it would be to watch the two MLS teams that played in this MLS Cup on repeat. Yuck and no thanks. But on a much happier note, Happy New Year's to everyone out there. I didn't think we'd be able to nail down the final pot of the year considering how chaotic our schedule has been. But thank the Scarf for this one, because if it was on me, I wouldn't have seen you all till next year.
Yeah, look, there's been an awful lot to talk about since the final. Actually, what Philly and I are going to do for this one, we're going to go through an entire timeline of events, and we're going to give our thoughts. We're going to give our takes. We're going to give our feelings, because I know a lot of people, especially over the last couple of days, are really in our feelings about the players who have decided that they are going elsewhere. Because that's the bottom line, right? Is all these players, they're deciding they're going elsewhere. Maybe John and company, Neil McGuinness, they're not bringing them back. I don't know. We're going to get into some of that. But, man, Philly, it has been such a long time since we have recorded. You said it was, 38 days that we took a little break, went on hiatus, and now we're back.
7, but I would imagine most people are going to listen to this on New Year's. So for them, it'll be 38. For those that listen on Thursday, it'll be 39. And for the ones Friday on 40. So who's keeping count?
I mean, I'm glad you were. Look, you guys know what to expect from an episode of Defenders of the Bank. Now, yes, we normally do our witty banter. We could tell you about the two games that he and I both called for UC Riverside for their men's basketball team, both fantastic victories by the Highlanders. There's always a Highlander connection. Aaron Long, we'll talk more about him in a minute. He's a Highlander. We could talk about that. We could talk about the fact that the Empire Strikers season has started out in the Inland Empire at Toyota Arena. Sure, we could talk about that. We could talk about a ton of different things coming down the pipe for 2025. But Philly, we have so many damn things to talk about that have already happened in 2024. We figured this would be a fun way to almost ring in the new year.
Yeah, and for those of you that are chiming in the chat, thank you so much. I really didn't think there would be many people here, just due to the fact that it is New Year's Eve and the fact that, well, I mean, planning parties, things of that nature. We didn't exactly market or promote this. If we're going to come up with resolutions, I don't necessarily believe in New Year's resolution. But one thing I would like to think at Defenders we can finally do is nail down a fixed time. So that way we don't have to do these sporadic, they're potting kind of shows. So that might be the case. But yeah, big shout out to all of you out there. It is New Year's. I've got my Cheshire Cat coffee mug with maybe some fun stuff in it. Maybe not. I'll leave that up to you to decide. I've got this bottle of Topo Chico with me, and I'm surrounded by friends. The Scarf, and of course, the Million. Scarf's drinking Liquid Death. I got Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty needed to come out and say hello, but I'm debuting my newest friend on the podcast. My newest friend that is going to be on Defenders of the Bank for quite some time. He is a gift courtesy of Mark and Valerie Kiefer. That's right, the parents of Nina. I debut Fred. That's right, folks. This is Fred. Fred is what's called a fuggler, a funny, ugly monster. And as you can see, boxer briefs, camo boxer briefs, because he's not green enough. But between Fred and Hello Kitty and Philly and the Scarf and whatever hosts we have hopping on with us to sub in for when we can't do things, we've got the Defenders family is growing. Say hi, Fred.
Hi, Philly.
Say hello, Hello Kitty. Hello, Hello Kitty. Sarcastic. Anyways, there we go. Fred, Hello Kitty, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm officially outnumbered, you guys. Yeah, Ben, wrong pod. But I am officially outnumbered now 3-1. I don't know how many other voices Philly has in there. This is at least a nice way that his doctor said he can get them all out, and it's okay. Look, we want to remind everybody again that the Mo Fascio Futsal Court fundraising effort is still underway. Head on over to LAFC.com/Mo-Fascio. Make some donations, you guys. Let's get that court funded. Let's get it built. It's happening out in Cudahy now. So Cudahy, I don't know, Cudahy, Cudahy. So that's where the court is going to be built, and we can't wait. Hopefully that'll be something we all get to celebrate together in 2025. And as a quick reminder, if you are not already, please follow us on any of our social media channels: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it. We're at Defenders.
Blue Sky. Yeah. Maybe we won't have TikTok to worry about, Scarf. Supposedly that's still going to get banned. I don't know.
I have no idea about what's going on with that, but follow us at Defenders of the Bank. That's bank with a C on all social media platforms except for X, which is Defend the Bank. Look, we also do a fun little segment called This Day in LAFC History. And actually, we get to call this part, Philly, the Jordan Harvey part of the podcast, oddly enough, because this day in LAFC history, it is now Tuesday, December 31st, 3:07 p.m. here in Los Angeles, California. A mere, 8 hours and 53 minutes until the ball drops in California. So if you are listening and watching this on the 31st, thank you so much. This was in that date in 2019, 12/31/2019, is where LAFC re-signed defenders Jordan Harvey and Dejan Jakovic. On the 2nd of January in 2018 is when we signed Jordan Harvey for the very first time as a free agent. And on the 2nd of 2019 is where we re-signed Jordan Harvey for the 2019 season. So 2018, 2019, and 2020. This is normally a good time of year for Jordan Harvey, but Philly, we don't have to sign Jordan Harvey anymore. He's part of our front office staff now.
He is. Did a great interview with him on the other show that I do called Soccer in 60. If you haven't heard of that one, check it out. We cover everything in regards to soccer in the professional markets from LAFC. Yes, we have to cover that other team too. The Strikers, Angel City, and of course, Orange County Soccer Club. Great conversation with Jordan Harvey. Talks about his role right now with the front office and acting as a liaison between the academy and the first team. Really good stuff. But I'm happy to see him as a part of that front office. With the departure, and we're going to talk more about this later, Ilie Sanchez, I was thinking more along the lines of him maybe calling it a day, working with the front office. We know he loves LA, but he's going to a team in green. And Fred, I know you're green, buddy, but it's weird that he's going. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and you mentioned the academy, Philly. Big news, a potential bombshell about the academy in part of our rundown. Look, we expect more to come out after the first of the year, obviously, because part of what you are seeing, why you all are seeing such a flurry of activity right around the 31st is the bottom line is this is when all the contracts are up. This is when all the loans expire. This is when moves can start to happen. And sometimes players want to break it on their own. Sometimes teams are asked to do it, ask them to do it before the player actually breaks it. It can be any number of things. But what we have seen over the last couple of days, while it is typical of every club's offseason, Philly, honestly, since the season ended November 23rd, it was going up. We got a lot of cool things happening. Okay, good stuff. But these last few days have been rough on the old heartstrings.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, there's players that we fell in love with over the past couple of seasons, players that we fell in love with just with the one season that they played. Players that we welcomed back. I mean, a lot of things going on. I'm going to say this repeatedly throughout the course of the pod. It's something I got from Jimmy Lopez at the time that he was the president of the 3252. Players come and go. Front office members come and go. But us, supporters, fans, lovers of this team, we're perpetual. So that's just something to just keep reminding ourselves. We're always going to be around here. Of course, we're going to have players come and go. We'll have a hero that we're going to miss and then a new one tomorrow. We missed Adama Diomande. In comes Denis Bouanga. I mean, the story goes, the door revolves around. But as long as the front office is still focused on winning trophies, that's the bottom line at the end of the day. It kills me to see some of these players go, but at the same time, not entirely surprising. And if we want to move to that next threshold, there has to be some changes that get made. But of course, that's always a tough pill to swallow, especially during the holidays in these times of, changes.
Yeah, look, the season ended November 23rd. So that's 38 days ago or so. Now, Kickball Pod, we will talk about Alec Hughes. Don't worry. But we're going to go through a timeline in chronological order of everything that has happened. Maybe there have been a few stories that have slipped under your radar. Maybe there have been a few things that you have wanted us to talk about since we went on a little bit of a break about a month ago. We are back with our final episode of 2024, and we are going to go through every single bit of LAFC news since the season ended.
Good God, I need to start drinking now then.
That's okay. You've already started. The first bit of news was like a bit of a head scratcher, I guess. Like, we got eliminated from the playoffs, and then a couple days later, John Thorrington was named MLS Sporting Executive of the Year, given annually to an MLS club's chief soccer officer, general manager, or head sporting executive. And Philly, I remember you and I were talking about it. Like, it's not that Thorrington doesn't deserve it. I mean, he won a trophy, right? We won a trophy with the Open Cup. We made a final again. We made it to the top of the Western Conference in the regular season. But the timing a little odd. And honestly, out of all the seasons, this one was a little bit of a surprise.
I'll agree. Like you said, it's not that Thorrington didn't deserve it, but to post something about this when we get our butts handed to us and a pink slip for the season, I didn't like it. And to be quite honest, look, we talk negatively about our rivals, but at the same time, I have to acknowledge the fact that if there is a GM that should have been awarded this, it's got to be our former guy in that, Will Kuntz. What he did in the quick turnaround, considering the turmoil that Carson had last season, that was nothing short of miraculous. And at the same time, they won, tragically for all of us. But he's the one who really should have been awarded the Executive of the Year because, quite frankly, to do a complete 180 from the season last year to what they did this year, he was the one truly deserving of it. I would imagine if Don Garber thought, well, LAFC is going to be a shoe and win the MLS Cup, I'll give it to John Thorrington. If that was the case, then that's the bad juju that fell upon us in that loss in the postseason. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the timing of it. I think we need to wait until the end of the season to hand out some of these awards because it's kind of dumb at the end of the day, if you ask me. But
yeah, it could have been a way that
I wearing a Joker kit.
It could have been maybe a way that maybe Don Garber was trolling LAFC a little bit. Like, oh, you guys got eliminated. We're going to announce this one today. One of those.
Yeah, it could be that too. Maybe to let people know we're no longer his darlings and he's moved on to another club. That's all right. 2025 is upon us.
So that was November 26th. The very next day is when LAFC announced their roster moves for the end of the 2024 season. That's when they have to make some decision on player options and things like that. And so LAFC exercised the options on 5 players, 4 of which I think we may see on a regular basis in 2025. Sergi Palencia, Eddie Segura, Hugo Lloris, and David Ochoa, that was an interesting one, and forward Adrian Wabowo, who was signed out of the Academy and LAFC too. So at the time, Philly, we had 19 players under contract. No real surprise. Sergi Palencia may have been our MVP at points throughout the season. He was an absolute stalwart on defense, and in my opinion, should have got much more consideration both for Defender of the Year and Best 11. Obviously, we knew we were picking up the option on Hugo, at the way he played this last season. Eddie Segura, nice to see Eddie back in the fold, although we're going to have to figure out a position and some minutes for Eddie if he's going to get any. David Ochoa, Philly, it's one of the questions we're going to have right in the offseason is Thomas Asal or David Ochoa, who will be the backup for LAFC, and Adrian Wabowo also under contract.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge everybody in the Instagram. It's been 37 days since we've done this, so I forgot that I can't see your comments here in our little chat. I have to go back and forth to Instagram. I do thank you for all comments in there and Happy New Year's. The one comment that I did want to highlight from there that's great where was it? I think it was Carso mentioned that, hey, at least Ted Uncle retired. So that's probably the best bit of news that we've heard in the past couple of weeks. No more chanting, your wife's better, cha, 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 Ted Uncle. No longer a thorn in our side, forever a thorn in our side. We good.
Wait a minute. If you see Ted Uncle in the street, like at the grocery store, you can still totally chant your wife's better. That's totally fine. That's perfectly fine.
Cool.
Also part of those announcements that they made on the 27th, Carlos Vela, Kai Kamara, and Marlon all had their contract options declined. More on all three of them in a moment. But three other players, Philly, that as soon as they made the announcement, right behind that tweet was a tweet, part of our history, Luis Muller, Tommy Musto, and Diego Rosales. Let's take a second, Philly, if we can, just to give these three players their flowers, because you know what? They all contributed to the black and gold in some way, shape, or form. I don't believe any of them will be back unless maybe later on down the road in their careers. But a player, Philly, that you and I both really liked coming from LAFC over to LAFC, and maybe a player who we thought could have gotten a little bit more of a look, was Luis Muller.
I mean, could he have gotten more of a look with how deep the back line was?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the problem is, we have these players that we're bringing up through the academy. We're building them up. It's awesome that they sign these first team contracts as quickly as they do. But in this case, we now no longer have the ability to mold them. And the question is, what do we do from them? What do we do with them then? I mean, overseas, these are players that would end up getting sold off to other clubs and whatnot. But yeah, Muller, I think May of the season he was signed in. He had a pretty good stint with LAFC too. Was on the bench against Nashville and against Galaxy. He came in the 89th minute in a game that we had against the New Jersey Energy Drinks on April the 20th. Got himself an assist on a game-tying goal with Denny Bouanga. Had some contribution, but I mean it was going to be hard for him to crack the back line again due to his, I don't want to say lack of experience, but I mean, look at who we had there. I think we had one of our deepest back lines in LAFC history, to be completely honest with you. I mean, if you go through Hugo Lloris's clean sheets this season and that record that we had in terms of not conceding a goal, a lot of that not necessarily attributed to Lloris, some of it, yes, but the back line as well.
Yeah, Muller, at forward appearing in 4 matches during the regular season for a total of 6 minutes. 4 matches, 6 minutes. That's not a lot of time to contribute, though he did have that assist on the game-tying goal there against Red Bulls. He also did play significant minutes-ish in the Open Cup, overall playing 6 matches for LAFC, 2 in the Open Cup, 4 in the regular season, 80 minutes, and that 1 assist total for the year. He did
Wait, did I say he was a defender and he was actually a forward? If that's
you did.
My bad.
Yeah, that's okay.
Either way, and that makes it even harder for him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. 18 matches, 9 goals for LAFC 2. He was a leading scorer this year for LAFC 2, but he will have to find a different place to ply his trade. And I think he will. I think he'll land on his feet as soon as contracts can open up on the 1st. Tommy Musto was an interesting story. Came from the academy. I mean, the 13th player in league history from Hawaii. Only 13 players in league history from Hawaii. And if we didn't have so much to talk about, I might have done a deep dive on who the other 12 players were. I did not. Musto signed several short-term deals before signing his first team contract on May 29th. He was on the bench a couple of times, Seattle, Sporting, Atlanta, but he made his only appearance for LAFC in black and gold for the first team in our win against Loudoun United. He played 11 minutes against Loudoun United in the Open Cup, and that would be it. He played 29 matches total for LAFC 2, including an assist on all 3 goals in a 3-2 win against Real Monarchs on Cinco de Mayo of this year. But really a short tenure for Tommy Musto, 11 minutes in black and gold this season.
And obviously the nice thing about them is the fact that they are young, and you said that they could get quickly back on their feet. But again, just going back to what I said earlier, we bring up these kids through the academy. We sign them the contracts. They don't get any playing time. Not really a good body of work to sell them at any value. I view this in some situations as more of a disadvantage for them than anything else. Yes, it lands on your resume that you played at LAFC too, but when you don't play at LAFC, or LAFC 2. I mean, obviously they played at LAFC 2 to crack the senior club, but I just view that as a disadvantage and just an unfortunate thing because we know of these players. We've heard of these players. We've seen them come up, but what value will there be for them? And obviously for us, if we don't give them the required playing time to go ahead and do things and further on their career.
Yeah, really, it's been what Duenas and Ordaz have been the ones that have kind of come up and made the most noise, if you can call it that, from the academy and all. But the other one, this one kind of hurt a little bit just because I know how hard this kid worked and how long he was with LAFC in some way, shape, or form. Diego Rosales, the longest tenured player of the three that we've just talked about, he actually signed his first team contract in 2023 at the age of 17. He had been with LAFC since our inaugural U12 team in 2016-17. And Philly, he was 15 years old playing for Steve Cherundolo and the Las Vegas Lights. Can you imagine 15 years old, professional athlete in Vegas? What could go wrong there? LAFC signed him to a second first-team contract on September 13th of this year, so towards the end of the season. He didn't play for us in 2024, Philly, but you and I think it might be one of our favorite games that we've ever done a podcast about. Eldin Jakupovic and the kids against Monterey Bay in the Open Cup. He was incredible in that game, Philly. He played 120 minutes, played every single minute in that game with Eldin and against Monterey Bay. He also played the full 90 in Ricky Puch's coming out party against the kids very next couple of weeks later in the Open Cup. Those are the only two times that he ever broke the first team roster, but he did so with 210 consecutive minutes in the U.S. Open Cup. Actually, 19 times he was sitting on the bench for LAFC and unused. But here's the part that blows me away, Philly. You ready for this?
Yes.
You remember Peñarol?
Do I remember what about Peñarol?
Remember the game that we played against Peñarol?
Yeah. I mean, that was that was years ago. That's what. Yeah, of course I remember that. That was a January game.
January 25th, 2020. That's Rosales' first game in black and gold. He played against Peñarol at 14 years old. 14.
You know, speaking of, just real quick, side note, Squirrel, hey, Philly, Jakupovic, no, not retired. Did you know he's actually playing for an MLS Next Pro team, Chattanooga FC? So it will be Eldin and the kids, just in another state. Yeah, Eldin Jakupovic played for Chattanooga FC. Philly, 14 years old, playing against Peñarol. Some of the players that we saw play in that game have gone on to do great things. It's just incredible to me that all the way back when he was 14 years old, he made his first appearance. So kudos to those three. Again, Luis Muller, Tommy Musto, and Diego Rosales. It was also revealed, Philly, that defenders Aaron Long and Jesus Murillo and midfielders Ilie Sanchez and Eric Duenas were all out of contract. And at the time, the club was in talks to retain Long, Murillo, Marlon, and Duenas. Nothing on Carlos Vela, nothing on Kai Kamara, nothing on Ilie Sanchez at that time. Remember, they also talked about, they gave Edward Atuesta his part of our history post. They said they're trying to bring back Lewis O'Brien. And then the one that blew me away, and I'm gonna turn this over to our resident Bundesliga expert between the two of us. The final sentence of that press release: LAFC has also transferred midfielder Bajung Darboe to Bayern freaking Munich. Bayern Munich. He never played for the first team. He barely played for the second team, LAFC 2, 440 minutes. But Philly, he gets to go to Bayern Munich? What? Yeah, so he'll get to train on Sabener Strasse, because I don't think this kid's making a senior team appearance anytime soon. He couldn't crack it in the MLS, let alone you're going to go out and compete with some of the best players in the world and one of the top 5 biggest clubs in the world. You're right. Good on him. I have no body of work to determine what kind of a player he is. But clearly the intellectual capacity and capital at Bayern saw something. They're not just going to bring a kid to Sabener Strasse without having a desire and a spark, something that they see. And typically not a club that really does a lot. Of course, they have a youth academy, and they have brought up players. I mean, you look at the likes of Thomas Muller, you look at guys right now currently on the team like Joshua Kimmich, so on and so forth. But We all know that for the most part, they're a rich club that poaches people. I mean, finally, after years, Uli Hoeneß finally cracks the $100 million transfer fee mark to bring in Harry Kane. And while that didn't yield any trophies for the Bavarian Giants, it certainly gave them a Golden Boot winner last season and arguably another one this season in the same category. And I think this is the year that Bayern regains the Bundesliga Meisterschale, but it's going to be a close race in the Bundesliga. And for more of that, make sure you check out my German soccer podcast. One of like 6 I'm going to end up promoting on this pod. It's called Die Fußball Bros. I do it with my buddy Thilo Zingler, who you've seen. He's a member of Black Army. He's the guy that looks like a Viking. Speaking of Vikings and people out of Scandinavia, we'll talk a little bit about the rumors that we heard today a little later. But yeah, utterly shocked that we sent the player to Bayern. But hey, there's an example of that red and gold partnership that was announced.
I was going to say, right? It's been flowing that way. I know we sent a couple of other academy kids at one point over to Bayern as well. I'm ready to get it. Some Bayern players coming this way. They got a few good ones.
Some Bayern swag is what we need to do.
Right, there you go. So listen, after the press release, we had 19 players under contract. That's again, we're not even in December yet. 19 players under contract. 3 keepers: Lloris, Ochoa, and Hasal. Defender: Omar Campos, Maxime Chanot, Ryan Hollingshead, Sergi Palencia, Eddie Segura, Luca Bombino, and Lorenzo Della Valle. Hopefully we get to see him play this year. Midfielders, we had 3: Matty Bogusz, Timothy Tillman, and they listed David Martinez as a midfielder. I don't know about that one. And under contract at forwards at the time were Denny Bouanga, Kiki Oliveira, Olivier Giroud, Nathan Ordaz, Adrian Wabowo, and Thomas Angel. We'll get to him in a second. December 3rd, Philly, in a no-duh moment for anybody who has watched LAFC or Major League Soccer over the last year, Denny Bouanga named to the MLS Best 11 for the second year in a row. And apparently, and I can't find the news article that I read this from before, but apparently him being named Best 11 also coincided with a new contract, maybe a raise of some sort is what we had heard. I just can't find the news article. But Denny Bouanga, kudos. Look, no duh, right? Best 11. Probably should have been a little bit higher for MVP, but it is what it is. A wonderful season, a wonderful first 2 full seasons for Denny Bouanga in black and gold. Now, Philly, San Diego FC next year. We're going to play them starting on March 29th, I think, is when we go down there for the first time.
What a way day that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I hear there's going to be like a train, like an LAFC train that just goes down. I want that to happen so bad.
It's called Amtrak.
Yeah, listen, it's the Surfliner Express for the Surfliner Showdown. You heard it here first.
I like that Surfliner Showdown. That's good. That's a fun ride, Scarf. I've taken it down. I've taken it down to San Diego a couple times. They got a bar cart, a bathroom. What more do you want?
A bar cart. That's Philly's next
and
podcast.
A bathroom. Don't forget the bathroom. Can't have a bar cart.
Philly's next podcast is going to start as bar cart and a bathroom with Philly. I can't wait. That's going to be a fun one. Look,
think of all pod, Carlos Vela.
The Surfliner Showdown, March 29th, will likely include Tomas Angel. As part of a half-day trade window on December 9th, Tomas Angel and LAFC's second-round pick in the 2025 MLS Super Draft were traded to San Diego FC for $200,000 in 2025 GAM. By the way, more on GAM in a minute, because now we know how much we all have. So that was fun. 2024, an up and down year for the son of one of our best scouts, former MLS legend Juan Pablo Angel, as Tomas played with LAFC, LAFC 2, and Phoenix Rising. He did make his first team debut all the way back in March. We had high hopes for Tomas Angel. He would play 5 total matches for LAFC in the regular season, 2 in the Open Cup. Really, though, just 181 minutes played. He did score 2 goals in 181 minutes. But I know it wasn't quite what we expected from the son of Juan Pablo Angel, Tomas Angel.
There's a lot of info there on Tomas Angel, considering the fact that we hardly saw him. So much info that you got Fred's eyes all glossy. Look at him. Fred looks stoned, and he hasn't even chomped on anything. Fred, what are your thoughts?
Oh, man.
He a lot of Tomas Angel info.
Yeah, hey, we're giving him his kudos as he's out the door, and now we get to boo him at San Diego FC. December 10th. I want everybody to remember this name because I was talking about him a little bit during the regular season. First guy I started talking about was Luca Bombino. This kid, though, Jude Terry. Jude Terry is 16 years old, and he is the latest homegrown contract that LAFC has signed. It'll go into effect tomorrow. So technically he's not a member of Black and Gold yet. But this kid is good. He is 16 years old, the 8th homegrown in LAFC history. And he's been with LAFC since he was 12 years old back in 2021. He actually played 11 matches for LAFC 2 in 2024, notching an assist. But where he has really shown over the last year plus has been on the U.S. youth national teams. He started and played almost every minute in the 2023 CONCACAF Boys Under 15 Championship, which the U.S. won. And then he's already been named to the U.S. Under 17 squad and recently named the 3rd best U.S. men's national team prospect born in 2008. Philly, he's just 16. I don't know if he'll get any minutes as a midfielder with LAFC this next season, but he is the real deal.
I mean, he's the real deal if he can prove it on the pitch on the senior club. For now, he's just talent that we're developing. It's tough to say that anybody's going to be the real deal until we've seen them. Yeah, he's been with the club for a significant period of time, but there have been other players that have been around the club for a significant period of time that never got to crack that senior starting lineup. So I will 100% keep my eyes on these kids, but it just kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think this is the 3rd time I'm referencing it. I'm going to be cautious because we're developing players, but we're not really utilizing them and they're going elsewhere. Is he going to be good? Possibly, but I don't know. I'm going to wait before I go ahead and call him the real deal. Kick a Ball Pod mentions watch out for Alexander Vukovic with Real Salt Lake. I'm going to second that. I got to call these kids games as a member of UC Riverside's men's varsity, of course they're varsity, men's soccer team. He ended up transferring to Marshall as a grad student playing for the Thundering Herd, and he featured in that game against Vermont, that very exciting NCAA men's soccer cup final. That is a kid to watch out for. He's built out of rock. It's crazy. And I've got to work with him a lot of times. He would come in and help with stats, doing baseball. Really nice kid. And RSL's got themselves a good product. That's more of a real deal. But of course, we're talking about a man and a teenager.
Yeah. Well, he plays for RSL, so I don't like him. So
fair enough. But I just wanted to address the Highlander connection because, players that have come out of UCR that have been pretty solid as a player.
He's probably a very nice kid too. Also on December 10th, Philly.
When you're about to break up with a girl.
Also on December 10th, Philly, LAFC drew Colorado as our first round opponent.
All right, look.
2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup. Out of all the spots, nothing like going to Commerce City, Colorado in February, folks.
I mean, the nice thing about that is it's free parking. They practically pay you to go see a game at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Commerce City, you would never imagine. If you haven't been, you'd never imagine you were in Denver. It looks more like Nebraska. More like Nebraska when you're there. And for frick's sake, February, of all the amazing places we could have gone, it had to be in a city for a club that we see a couple of times a year. It sucks. And at the same time, every round for the next 2 rounds after that is going to more than likely feature an MLS club team. The Miamis, possibly the Columbus Crew. The cool part about the CONCACAF Champions Cup is that we get to play against teams that we would not have gotten to play against before. But here we go. Is Colorado going to be this upcoming season's version of the Vancouver Whitecaps? Wait and see.
Yeah. Oh, man. And to cap it all off, we play them on a Tuesday in February. You know what it's like asking for work, for days off? Hey, instead of teaching children, which is what you pay me to do, and how you give me like all summer off, can I take a day off on a Tuesday to go to a Commerce City, Colorado? No, man.
I got to go do commerce in the city in Colorado. There you go.
Tuesday, February 18th, we play them there before we play them Tuesday, February 25th here. CONCACAF Champions Cup 2025, where dreams can come true. Woo! On December 12th.
Oh, God.
Good news.
December 12th? I'm already out of booze. I mean,
don't worry. We flash forward 5 days after December 12th for the next one. But on December 12th, LAFC re-signs former UC Riverside Highlander Aaron Long to a 3-year contract. Long was captain for LAFC 12 times in 2024, including all 4 playoff matches. And after some news about Ilie, he may retain the armband a little bit more often in 2025. Aaron Long, let's not forget, was the 2018 MLS Defender of the Year and All-Star in 2018 and 2022 before coming to LAFC. And he was part of the CONCACAF Champions League Best 11 in 2023. Still has plenty of gas left in the tank, Philly. 79 matches over his first 2 years at LAFC. Congrats to him. 50 regular season matches, 8 MLS Playoff Cup matches, 3 Open Cup, 10 Leagues Cup, 1 Campeones Cup, 7 Champions League matches, and a really nice guy to boot.
And an empty mug of alcohol.
Are you going to go fill up while I talk about December 17th and the lure of going out to the Coachella Valley Invitational?
Wake me up when we get to Christmas.
All right. So you guys all know how we love driving out to the Coachella Valley in the middle of the week for no reason whatsoever than to watch our preseason team play. Well, we get to do that again in 2025. And of course, nice and convenient. Thank you, AEG, for making that on a Wednesday, February 5th. LAFC will be taking on Philly's favorite coach, Greg Berhalter, Kellen Acosta, and the Chicago Fire. Wednesday at 1:30 in Coachella. Philly, you going to Coachella Wednesday at 1:30, February 5th?
To quote the great Fred, no.
I think Chris Lafferty, if you're in the chat, there he is. Lafferty, you and I, we'll head out. We'll take a day off on Wednesday, February 5th, because, I can get a day off to go to Coachella. I'll get a day off to go to Commerce City. My work is going to love me in February.
I mean, yeah, you've got the most flexible schedule out of anybody. I mean, a junior high math and Latin teacher midweek during the course of program of classes. That's the easiest thing. It's not like you're a real estate agent who can come and go as he pleases. You're a teacher who could come and go as he pleases. You've got the best of all worlds. Math and Latin. How many Latin teachers are there in the United States? Over and under 10. Is that a good starting line? What do we think?
Way over 10. Over and under.
Fine.
Over under 500 would be my guess.
That many people still read Latin?
Yes.
Damn. Well, I mean, in all honesty, you've got plenty of languages that, yes, have a Latin base, but
absolutely.
I did look, I'm old. You like to refer to me as old all the damn time. Hence my midlife crisis hair. I was taking Latin classes in Catholic junior high in Queens, New York. Back then, I still remember how to say the Our Father in Latin, but that was forever and a day ago, back when the only portable color screen we had was the Game Genie. If you all remember that, the Sega device that you would put the little thing on and it had the antenna. Boy, I smuggled that thing into my classrooms to watch the March Madness so many times. Anyway, I digress. Carry on.
Yeah, the bombshell that we talked about earlier in the podcast, though, was also on December 17th. Now, it hasn't been corroborated by anybody that I can see on the internet. But according to USMNT Prospects on Twitter, LAFC and Academy Director Todd Saldana may have parted ways. I say may because, again, the only source is this person on Twitter. But there was a lot of smoke there, not a lot of fire. I couldn't find other sources to back this up. But trying to get more information on this, if it's true, then it's news. I mean, he's been with the LAFC Academy since the very beginning. There was just one team of U12s that he was in charge of. Obviously, players like Nathan Ordaz and Eric Duenas and a lot of these other young kids that have come up have done it all under Todd Saldana's watch. We are trying to get more information on that, and when we have that in 2025, we will certainly let you know. I've put out a couple of messages and tweets to some people to try to get some info. But Todd Saldana and LAFC Academy parting ways could be Philly.
Yeah, I heard the same rumors from front office execs for other teams. So there might be some substance to that rumor.
Yeah, we'll try and get that confirmed. On December 19th, they released the regular season schedule for LAFC. No July 4th derby at the Rose Bowl, just 2 matches against Carson for the MLS regular season, 1 home and 1 away. No Inter Miami, either home or away, because now we only get to play 6 teams from the East at any point.
Don't worry, we'll see Inter Miami in the Champions Cup.
Oh, yeah. Our first away days, like we mentioned, to San Diego is March 29th. Our first match against San Diego at BMO is August 31st. We will talk a whole lot about the schedule on another pod, but that happened, so we're going to talk about that. Also, on that same day, schedule released, and the amount of GAM that every club has was released, which was interesting. We have $3.77 million in GAM. It's more than some clubs. It's less than others. And Philly, other than being able to buy down contracts or spend on signings or whatever, I don't know what the hell GAM is. And we got to have somebody on here who does so they can explain it to us.
It's more interesting and more imperative to talk about targeted allocation money, because that's the stuff that we can use to buy down the contracts of bigger and better and badder players. That's the way that we were able to pay Dio $1 million when back then he was only like 600 and change on the salary cap budget. TAM is the thing that we are really most interested in, targeted allocation money. And many, many blue moons ago, we ended up doing an alphabet soup of these funny little MLS terms. But as our viewership base has grown, and as our listeners, and thank you for that, by the way, it might behoove us to do another bit of this wham, gam, tam, thank you, ma'am stuff. And sprinkled in with some discovery rights, because there are a lot of nuances to MLS that aren't existing anywhere else in the world. I got dibs on Neymar. Boom, discovery rights money. You got to pay me to get him on your roster. But we can get into that. That could be a pod. If you're really wanting more Defenders of the Bank content prior to the season starting, we could do stuff like that. And this time around, Scarf, because we failed to do it last time, we have to do a grading of the kits when that comes out. And we have to nail down a time. We have so many things to do.
I hear the new kit's going to have a collar.
Oh,
that's what I hear.
Oh, really?
That's what I hear.
I hate collars. I hate collars on kids. Oh.
Let's go to December 20th.
Work. Why do I want to wear one with my kids? Forget it. I didn't even buy the last BMO kit. I'm staying retro. Here we go.
Let's go to December 20th. Kickaball Pods already talked about it in the chat. The 2025 MLS Super Draft took place. LAFC selected forward Alec Hughes with the 22nd pick overall. Alec is UMass's all-time leading scorer. I thought that was Marcus Camby, but apparently it's Alec Hughes. Scored 51 goals in 5 seasons with UMass. He also starred in USL League 2 in 2024. Dude was like everything in the A10 while he was in college. He played for the Western Mass Pioneers, and in doing so, he was named Northeast Divisional Player of the Year, named to the USL League 2 Team of the Year, and he won the USL League 2 Golden Boot with 17 goals, so the kid can score. Again, is he going to be able to crack the lineup? I don't know, but he can score in lower divisions and in the NCAA. And in order to take him, LAFC had to trade their 2026 second-round pick and $50,000 in 2025 GAM to Inter Miami. I don't know what to make, Philly. Ever since Joao Moutinho and Tristan Blackman, LAFC has been hard-pressed to get anything out of players that we have drafted in the Super Draft.
Yeah, Javi Perez, that was tough, but I mean, he came in with knee injuries. Yeah, there were a lot of, we didn't have much luck, but some of these kids coming out of the first round have been solid. I mean, look at some of the kids that came out the past couple of years from the Super Draft. I mean, I'm biased because I went to Indiana, but I'm thinking players like Jack Marr, for example, great players. I'm thinking guys like Griffin Dorsey, once again, another Hoosier. But looking at, there's the first round, these are kids that I think can stick. It's just when you get to the second and the third round, that's when stuff gets a little wild. But I mean, look, even like a Cal Jennings who came out, I forget, is that exactly where we picked him? Cal Jennings was in the 11 at some point. But either way, I mean, look, stomach the cold of Ludlow, Massachusetts, I think he's going to be fine here in Southern California.
There have definitely been some great players to come out of the Super Draft. I mean, Moisa Bombito has been everything for Canada recently. He came out of the MLS Super Drafters.
Didn't Mason Toy come out of there too?
I believe so. Yeah. Lots of good players. Look, it's always fun when LAFC drops a cap in a box on Twitter, and they did so on the 22nd, the domestic mail cap. And Philly, I got to be honest, when I saw that it was Jeremy Ebobisse,
I lost my ish.
I was like, oh, I have to cheer for Jeremy Ebobisse now. He's the way I put it, right? He went from persona non grata to a special seat at family dinner just like that. I mean, Jeremy Ebobisse is black and gold. What?
What shocks me is how many people were upset about this. Like, are you kidding me? Jeremy Ebobisse, anytime he competed against any of the LA teams, would have a dynamite game. There aren't that many players that have scored against LAFC historically as often as Jeremy Ebobisse has. He's 27 years old. He scored 60 goals thus far in his club career, 68 to be precise. 19 assists, 229 matches. You look at the body of work that he had for the San Jose Earthquakes last season. Come on, look at the body of work for the San Jose Earthquakes, period. A garbage season, wooden spoon contenders halfway through, one of the lowest offensive producing teams in Major League Soccer, and yet he still managed to find his way into the back of the net. Jeremy Ebobisse is fantastic for us and fantastic in MLS. You look at where he would fit in as far as our forwards are concerned. People are going to be like, well, come on, is he really on the same talent as a guy like Giroud? The answer is no, but Jeremy Ebobisse is a proven commodity in Major League Soccer, one that has continued to develop and progress. I'm really excited about this signing. I think he's going to do some great things for us. Yeah, only Zlatan has scored more than he has against us.
Yeah, it makes me wonder too. We saw Kike Oliveira take that role with LAFC towards the end of the season where he was like a midfielder, a backline hybrid who would push really high up front, and we would have like 4 or 5 players pushing forward. If we can have Kike Oliveira on the pitch at the same time as Denny Bouanga, Jeremy Ebobisse, maybe David Martinez, and I mean, sure, I'll say it because he's on the team, Olivier Giroud. It could be a really interesting line. But yeah, you mentioned it, Philly. Only Zlatan has more goals against us.
Anytime you mention Giroud, Fred's going to come on the screen. That's the new thing. Fred, what do you think about Giroud? No like Giroud.
Only Zlatan has scored more. Jeremy Ebobisse has scored 7 goals against LAFC, and only 5 players, including Jeremy Ebobisse, have ever played us 18 times in their career. So lots of things that we know that Jeremy Ebobisse has been able to do against us, but now he's black and gold, which, man, that was an interesting all kinds of sets of feels. Christmas Eve brought us Marlon re-signing with LAFC. But this is an interesting deal, folks. His deal that he signed on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 7 days ago, it's through June of this year, like 6 months. He signed a 6-month contract with a club option for the remainder of 2025 and a club option for 2026. I'm confused as to why the club does that. I don't know. Is it because we're hoping he does better and we can sell him? Is it because we don't know that he'll want to come back? Is it I don't know. A 6-month contract was kind of weird.
Very weird, but considering like how he got here, he failed a physical, which is essentially why he was free. So that leads me to believe that maybe he doesn't take his fitness as seriously as one can, because if it was a medical concern, nobody would sign him, period. But at the same time, perhaps this is just a way of LAFC ensuring that they don't overpay for somebody who isn't as serious. Marlon had a quick impact in his limited amount of minutes. And when they signed him, I had the feeling that we would lose Jesus David Maria, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But I don't think it's that craziest thing, because I'll tell you what, if he's not living up to his commitments, his bargain, his level of play and what we expect out of him, then we wipe our hands clean in June. And by then we still have a transfer window open enough to bring in other players. There's rumors of Kyle Walker from Manchester City coming through. I would absolutely prefer a player like that over a player like Marlon. But then again, Kyle Walker, we're talking designated player money here. Marlon, I mean, we're talking maybe a little bit of targeted allocation money.
Yeah, look, Marlon had a short but memorable run with LAFC in 2024. He appeared in just 8 matches for a total of 186 minutes. However, Philly, he scored his 2nd ever career goal in the most important time that we could have possibly had one. That 3-1 win over San Jose on decision day, that 3rd goal was all about Marlon. That was the goal differential that we needed. It allowed us to finish top spot in the Western Conference in the 2024 regular season so that we could go on to absolutely melt down in the playoffs. But either way, congrats to Marlon on signing the deal, an incredibly important goal in LAFC history. But from here on out, Philly, after Christmas Day, this is the sad part of the podcast, folks. Hold on to your butts because we're about to talk about three players who I don't know. I have a hot take on one of them in a second, but this last week has just sucked. That's my opinion, Philly. This last week has just sucked, and it started off with Jesus Murillo going to Liga MX and FC Juarez.
FC Juarez, like that's not an upgrade. By no stretch of the imagination is that an upgrade. You're talking about a team that for the most part is going to be bottom third of the table, regardless of whether it's going to be in the Apertura or the Clausura. This isn't a team like if it was a Monterrey, if it was a Tigres, if it was a León, a Club America, Chivas. There's so many other clubs that would have made sense for somebody like him. I mean, he's 30. Do you take a gamble on a player as old as that? But I don't view this as maybe they paid him more, but you'd have to get me to pay more to leave Los Angeles to go to Juarez to play for FC Juarez, because you talk about a team that's got ambitions for titles. You got a team that's just trying to make it in the top half of the Liga MX tables.
Yeah, maybe it's because they're ambitious that they bring on a player like Murillo. I mean, look, let's go back in time to October 14th, 2020. 2020. That's when Murillo first signed with LAFC on loan from Independiente Medellin. He would play 9 matches.
Medellin and then Juarez. Just saying.
Yeah. He would play 9 matches in 2020, and honestly, he would play right into most of our hearts over the next 4 years. He was the fire on the back line. Aaron Long kind of keeps everything together. Giorgio Chiellini was the emotion and he was the calmness back there that really helped everything stay together. But Muri was the fire. I mean, he wore our crest for 142 matches across all competitions in 5 seasons. Only Carlos Vela, Latif Blessing, and Edward Atuesta, 3 players, have appeared more for the black and gold than his 142 matches. 12 playoff matches, 10 Champions League matches, 10 Leagues Cup matches. His goal in the All-Star game, which was the only goal for MLS, that 53rd minute header.
At the bank. I remember that.
I mean, how cool was that? I think it was Atuesta to Muri for the goal. It was an all LAFC connection. But Philly, something that you and I both know is that those numbers only actually tell part of the story with Murillo. It was just the way he played, especially towards the end of this last season, that he was such an endearing player to everybody who watches LAFC.
Let's also look at the other side of the equation. Let's not forget the amount of times he would get some of these imbecilic yellow cards. He could have been a liability in some cases. He was more focused on jawing with the officials than actually focusing on play. The times that he would actually stop to complain while play was still happening. So let's also remember those aspects of him to couple along with everything else. But his goal in the MLS Cup final, for the most part, trounces a lot of that. A player that probably was deserving of a raise. I saw that in chat, and I don't disagree. But just for him to go from LAFC to FC Juarez, it's just such a downgrade in terms of teams that are playing for trophies at the bare minimum. I mean, I'm not even looking at that 7-1 drubbing that we put on FC Juarez as any bit of that. I'm just looking at how that team is historically. If they want to pay Muri the money, by all means, go for it. But we won't be having the fun over and under with how many yellow cards he will get in a season. That's for sure. You talk about the amount of times he played. I'd have to imagine he leads LAFC historically with the amount of yellow cards he's ascertained.
You are absolutely right, sir. His 35 yellow cards are the most ever in LAFC history. He only had 1 red card, folks, but 35 yellow cards. a far cry from Diego Chara's like 200, but still, he was our fire, man. And I'm gonna miss him. I'm especially gonna miss those 70-yard runs, Philly, that he would make when he thought he was a member of the front line rather than the back line. And he would either lead the break or he would be sprinting down to the side. And I mean, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see.
Rob in the chat goes, he's our Chara. Yeah. That might be the best. Yeah, I'm not gonna. That's good. I got nothing.
He's the closest thing we've got to him. That's for sure. All right, let's talk about yesterday, where Ilie Sanchez announcing on his Instagram that he's leaving LAFC. Obviously, today, December 31st, they would make it official. Unfortunately, so you have Ilie Sanchez, our captain, for more matches these past couple seasons than anyone else. And honestly, the thing that you and I both love, Philly, is the way that he represented this club on and off the pitch, how good of a dude he was, just the nicest guy. I mean, look, we joke about it all the time where I say people are like the nicest guy in history, but he really was. He really is. He's such a good dude. And we are really going to miss Ilie Sanchez.
I agree. And yes, I always make fun of you by saying, oh, you always say this is the nicest human being you'll ever meet in the world. No, the world has far too many a-holes than nice people. But I will agree with you that Ilie Sanchez, pure class, a gentleman, friendly, outgoing, would take his time, would chat with people. We got to hang out with him at some of these flex events at the Lowe's. You got to chill with him, chat with him on an away day as well. Just a great representative of MLS, of our club. And I mean, I'll never forget how crazy I went when he scored the final goal in that shootout against Andre Blake against the Philadelphia Union 2022. I still have the video of me just yelling and screaming, come on, Ilie, come on, Ilie. It was just, that moment alone was worth it. And to think, Peter Vermes in Sporting Kansas City thought he was done, cooked, over. And thank you for overlooking somebody as talented as Ilie Sanchez, Peter Vermes, because he gave us a lot of things to be thankful for, a lot of great memories, more importantly, a lot of great interactions. Yes, this one does hurt.
136 matches across all competitions for LAFC. Our captain in many of those 136 matches. Obviously, we know about the goal that you were talking about, Philly. They were able to film a commercial while he was setting up for that goal. It's absolutely incredible. If you've seen
I hate driving, but I like Continental tires. Let's just leave it
the live footage from Ilie there talking to the camera before he took that penalty shot is just unreal that they were able to do that. But there were so many moments just as big to the supporters where Ilie would take a second to say hi or snap a selfie or even record a greeting on your phone for somebody. And most of these took place away from BMO, right? You could have met him at the grocery store, at the park, or at a restaurant, and it wouldn't have mattered. He would have stopped. He would have talked to you as if you were the only thing that mattered in the world in that moment. Just such a good dude. And really, the bummer for Ilie leaving has, I think, a little less to do with what he did on the pitch and a little more with how he represented the Crest. Although, again, having Ilie there in the midfield, you just, you felt better about your chances, especially if LAFC had the lead. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you look a true sporting professional. His face should be right there. Class act, absolute class, 100% class.
Yeah, you want to talk about smooth segues? Let's go from one consummate professional to another. Of course, the final domino happened today. For players who we really would hope wouldn't leave, but thought that they might. And that would be Kai Kamara, who Kai Kamara became one of my favorite people and players in club history with his short stint this season. I'll be perfectly honest. I think Kai Kamara, had he had a longer time in black and gold, we'd be talking about which statue to build of Kai Kamara. That's how good of a person and a player that he was. It was a late birthday present for me on March 29th when LAFC signed Kai Kamara, 17-year MLS veteran, playing with his 11th club. But, Philly, it was kind of a homecoming, right? I live in Lawndale. He went to high school in Lawndale at Lusinger High. He went to Cal State Dominguez Hills in Carson. We know what he was on the pitch. It was unbelievable, right? Dude is 40 years old, Philly. He's jumping all around the pitch. He's winning sprints against players literally half his age. He got how to play in Major League Soccer. Do you hear that, Olivier Giroud? He got how to play in Major League Soccer and scored 8 goals for us, 6 more than Olivier Giroud. I'm just saying, 5 assists, and just left a mark on all of us with the way that he carried himself.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget when he jumped Landon Donovan for second place, all-time leading scorers in Major League Soccer. Got to ask him, I think, the first question in the room, and that was an honor just to be there, to have a chat with the man after just such a momentous occasion. Very cool. I mean, you talk about how, you know, if he stayed here longer, they could have built a statue for him. Have no fear, Scarf. The league will essentially build a conceptual statue for him, but Sporting Kansas City should build him a statue considering what he did there. Just a successful career, so many places, and a big part of our club. Take note, some of you athletes out there that listen to the show. That guy, when he signed, he was ready to play immediately. There's a certain designated player that we had season 1 that, you know, should take notes from a guy like Kai. You sign on, you get ready to play, you keep yourself fit and ready to go. And that is another example of a true professional. We talk about the class act of Ilie Sanchez and how he acted off the pitch, acting on the pitch in particular for a guy up there in age. He turned 40. He's not that much younger than you and I are. But yet for him to be ready to play, to go out and compete an entire season, the rigors of Major League Soccer in particular now, with how flipping long these goddamn seasons are, he was ready to go and he gave it his all. Amazing professional himself as well.
Yeah, love Kai Kamara. We're going to miss his positive vibes and his energy, how much of a leader he was out there. I'm going to miss his goals, obviously, too. One of the highlights of my year in media for LAFC was being able to ask his kid a question at one of the press conferences. That was super fun. Kai is just such a good dude, man.
Yeah.
This one hurts.
One of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet in the world.
Absolutely, and you know it. A couple of other sort of related LAFC news, right? Pablo Cisniega signed with San Diego FC. Okay. Mark Anthony Kaye got traded to San Jose, not Purgatory, San Jose.
No, man, hell. You could say hell. Like, they make hell is real between Columbus and Cincinnati. You want MLS hell? You go to the Earthquakes.
And look, it's interesting. He went from being talked about to go on loan to Swansea City to now being unemployed. Tyler Miller is a free agent, as well as Latif Blessing, but apparently Latif and Houston are in talks to retain the services of Latif. There have been rumors about Omar Campos potentially going back to Liga MX with Cruz Azul. But the other thing, Philly, that we do want to talk about real quick, right? I do have some notes underneath all the questions in case you wanted to see anything. Just as a sweet name, too. Odin Thiago Holm. Odin Thiago Holm, the 22-year-old Norwegian midfielder who we don't talk about rumors unless Tom Bogert tweets about it.
Yeah,
Tom Bogert tweeted about it. So it could be an interesting pickup for LAFC after the first of the year.
Yeah, when Tom tweets, it's a fact. Nobody should ever be like, source, ? Tom is the Woj of Major League Soccer. That's a reference to NBA for those unaware of that. I don't have a body of work for Odin. He didn't really feature for Celtic. 24 minutes, I think, is what he's gotten this entire season. But the connection that I view right here is our sporting director, Neil McGuinness, who spent some time at Celtic. So to me, he envisioned this. He had the relationship. He's the one that made this happen. And well, Neil, hungry to prove himself as a solid sporting director, and he is. And really a nice guy, too. You chat with him in Founders Club quite a bit. He sees something in this young man. 20, you said it. He'll be 22 January 18th. Still young, still plenty of time. Featured with the Norwegian national team from the age of 15 up until 20. One of those we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Look, he comes with a good pedigree. He was named in 2023. He was one of the 100 players nominated for the Golden Boy Award, which is the best player under 20. Yeah, under 21 in Europe. A guy by the name of Jude Bellingham actually won the award. So it's not clear if Odin Holm or Jude Bellingham are better. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But remember, Stipe Buke was also nominated for that award in 2021, and nothing really came of Stipe Buke. All I know is he's quick with the ball, and he's shown experience in being an attacking mid, but can also get back on defense. Everyone says he's fast.
He better be good at getting back on defense, for Christ.
Everyone says he's fast, so we'll see. He's a midfielder. So Celtic maybe giving up on him for the way that he played in the Champions League. He had a rough
24 minutes all season. Yeah, I think they gave up on him a long time ago.
Well, yeah, he played in 2 matches in the Champions League. In the first match, he was subbed on in the 58th minute and got a red card in the 68th minute. So I know they probably didn't love that against Feyenoord. And then he was subbed on at the half in a 6-0 loss in which the defense gave up 4 goals after he was subbed on. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what we're able to do with the former Celtic product, Odin Thiago Holm. And he was able, he petitioned when he was 17 to add Thiago to his name because he loves Thiago Alcantara, the player. So that was an interesting little thing. Philly.
God, how hard did you... Oh, never mind. You could just go to his wiki page and find that. All right, never mind. I'm like,
yeah, that one's not.
We don't have the time to dig this up, teaching math and Latin and taking care of a million things. We barely have time to nail down a pod yet. You found out that Odin Holm wanted Thiago because Wikipedia. Never mind. Carry on. Fred! Sorry, I'm throwing him on here because I'm going to make you all love Fred, because Fred and Hello Kitty go together very, very well.
That would make an interesting stuffed animal, those two together. Philly,
Fred's he's already in his underwear scarf, just like me. That's all I'm going to be doing. I'll be sitting at home in my underwear and enjoying this. If I fall asleep before midnight, great success.
I apologize to all of you for having to visualize that. Philly, 2 things we haven't talked about. Number 1 is Eric Duenas. They're in talks maybe to bring him back. Don't know what's going to go on with Eric, the longest tenured player on LAFC, of course, as he's been with LAFC since the academy, since he was 12 years old. But I guess we should talk about it. Carlos Vela, Philly. Carlos Vela, his team option was declined. So technically, he's a free agent right now. He hasn't signed with San Diego FC. He hasn't signed with LAFC. He hasn't signed with anybody. What's your thought on Carlos Vela in 2025?
Well, first and foremost, I had to make sure that he was positioned correctly because I didn't want him to fall and get injured before the season began. I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of indifferent. And the reason why I say that is because, look, I may clown on Carlos Vela. I genuinely love Carlos Vela, and he's my second favorite player of all time at LAFC. No question about that. But what just rubbed me in a weird way was the fact that, I mean, there was so much hype behind him signing, and then we just didn't get to see anything. You know, obviously, it could have been injuries were part of what hampered him down, and we were told, or we heard anyway, that not we were told. Nobody tells us. We hear things, but what? Just kidding. Fred, silence. That he was hampered by injuries, and that's why he wasn't able to feature during the MLS Cup playoffs. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But if he gets injured so quickly coming into training, that might be more of a thing of just him not being in shape. So to me, I mentioned the professionalism that a Kai Kamara would have, meaning that, you know, he signed and he was ready to go, took to the training ground. We saw him get minutes immediately. I don't know if Carlos is at that stage in his life anymore. You know what I mean? So if anything, they would keep him around, sign him, maybe let him play, perhaps even as a negotiating bargain chip for Antoine Griezmann, although those conversations have really cooled down quite a bit. I haven't really heard too much from those lines, but if we could utilize him as a bargaining chip to bring in his old buddies so they could compete together once again like they did at Real Sociedad, I'm all for it. But otherwise, just everything that went into the speculation, everything from like him keeping clothes in his locker room at the Performance Center on the campus of Cal State LA to signing on to us seeing him for all of a cup of coffee or for the time it takes me to pull Fred on the screen here on this Defenders of the Bank podcast. I don't know how I feel about it. I've kind of moved on, to be completely honest with you. He did what he did for us, and I'm greatly appreciative of his time. But as far as going forward, unless he's a bargaining chip and an ambassador, I don't know. I don't really see the reason why.
Yeah, look, if he can help get Antoine Griezmann here, I know we would all be very grateful of that for sure. But that being said, I think that one match in MLS Cup playoffs with 4 minutes, right? I think 4 minutes is what he played plus stoppage. That was all we saw. And again, word has it that he did injure his knee or did have an injury to his knee, whether it was in those 4 minutes or whether it was a run up from training, whatever.
Or a lack thereof training to get to training.
Well, and we have to remember that the idea was actually to bring him on in the regular season towards the end of the game, but Aaron Long got hurt. So we had to bring in Marlon, who wound up scoring the goal that was the deciding factor so that we got top place in the Western Conference for the regular season. So, I mean, it was kind of serendipitous that we didn't bring on Carlos Vela. I mean, sure, he might have also scored the goal, but, I think my final take on Carlos is this. If Carlos comes back and he wants to play and he wants to be a part of the club, we'll take him back in a heartbeat. It needs to not be anywhere near a designated player salary. And it likely, unless he takes the role of Ilie Sanchez, kind of like a holding, passing, offensive at times midfielder. Sure, cool, great. I would love that. I would take him in that role 100 times out of 100. But should he start over Kike Oliveira? No. Should he start over Denis Bouanga? God, no. Should he start over David Martinez? No, thank you. I don't know.
Should start over Olivier Giroud.
I was gonna say, I'll take him in a number 9 role where he's like more of a holding 9, but then you lose any aerial threat in the box with a guy like Carlos Vela. He's still the best passer.
Defensive presence there either. Slows the counterattack. I mean, the list can go on and on.
Yeah.
To have him, to mentor, perfect. But if we want to beat people and play this style of football that's been very attractive and very fun for LAFC and score golazo after golazo, that's not the way to do it. It's holding on to the history to kind of – the most important thing is you bring in a franchise player and you want him to feel like a franchise player. You want to treat him like a franchise player. You want him to go out like a franchise player. So if you're going to treat him in that sense, by all means, sign him, give him the send-off that we absolutely need to. But in terms of a tactical situation, again, he's not going to get back to play defense. Just not going to happen unless he has a complete change and goes on the Tom Brady diet. I don't see him factoring in with our thoroughbreds. I don't see him running with Denny or Kike or Matty or anybody else.
Can we take a moment? I know we're an hour and almost 13 minutes in. Can we take a moment to acknowledge the fact that Philly just brought up Tom Brady on this podcast and I didn't? Can we take a minute?
Nice.
Can we? I mean, is that the best way to end the last pod of 2024 that you could possibly? Where's Fred? Let's bring Fred back. You mentioned Tom Brady. We got it. Hi, Fred. Fred, thank you. Thank you. That made look.
I'm in my underwear.
We've been doing this for almost an hour and 15 minutes. Incredible numbers. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, everybody who's watching right now. Oh my God, we love you guys so much. I think they're kind of done hearing from us for now, Philly. I know you've got stuff that you want to do for New Year's. I got to check on Mom and see how she's doing. Philly's.
I guess there was a little more Topo Chico in there than I thought there was.
He's out of beverages right now. We'll talk about all the rumors and stuff. We'll see what happens with Omar Campos. We'll see what happens with Odin's Hammer or whoever it is, this kid that we're going to bring in. We'll see what happens with Igor Lichnowsky. He's been one that's been rumored. Antoine Griezmann may come over before the window. We don't know what the heck is going on. But what we do know, Philly, is that 2024 has been an incredible year. We have all kinds of wonderful things in store for 2025 with Defenders of the Bank. I can't wait, Philly, for 2025. But more importantly, the love that we have felt from all of you out there, the Black and Gold faithful, Defenders Nation, or of course, as we love to call you, the millions.
And millions.
It is what keeps us going and why we continue to want to do this. It is the love of the crest, but it is also the love of all of you that we cling to and hold near and dear. Thank you so much. February 5th, Philly, it's only in a month and a couple of days, is our next scheduled match for LAFC against your favorite coach, Greg Berhalter. I know you won't be there in Coachella. Lafferty and I may be out there. We'll see what happens. But man, this has been an incredible year, 2024. Philly, I will let you close us out and have the final word.
As I started the pod, I want to end the pod this way. I know there's a lot of people out there that are upset at the fact that we're losing so many players. There's questions with what the front office is doing, so on and so forth. Keep this in mind. Players come and go. Staff come and go. We are perpetual. We love this club. We've been there through a lot of good times. Haven't had too many trying times. Our complaint is we don't win finals. Well, keep in mind that there's clubs out there that complain and supporters that are with teams that don't have teams that are capable to make the playoffs. We've been very lucky. And so the story has yet to unfold itself. We'll learn of some of the future signings that we have. This isn't going to be a team that's going to go into 2025 in the way that it is. So just have the faith in that category, in that perspective. And again, I echo the words of Scarf. Thank you so much for all the love, support that you've shown. We've been at it for 300 plus episodes, and we don't count the One More Sleeps. But if you did, we're probably closer to 500 than anything. Mikey said it best. En las buenas y las malas. That's the fact. We're not here riding a wave because the team's cool, fun, and trendy. We're here because we genuinely love it. But it's not just the performance on the field. It's the club. It's everybody that makes it from top to bottom. Everyone's a Christmas tree lane. Everybody who's been a part of this from the get-go, and even the new people that have come forward. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to us. Hit the like button. We're trying to build this stupid YouTube page to 1,000. I don't know why it's taken this long, but we're also not great at promoting. So if you could just tell your friends, your families, your cousins, your sisters, all that stuff. There'll be plenty more of Scarf in 2025. There'll be plenty more of Philly in 2025. There'll be plenty of me. Hello, Kitty, much to the chagrin of some of you. And there'll be a lot more of me, Fred, the newest member of Defenders of the Bank. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2025. And may this year be the most kick-ass year for all of us. Health, wealth, and let's make it all stealth. Have a good night. Happy New Year. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.